Blanche Zaff joins me now from the Loan Charge Action Group. You'll no doubt be familiar with the loan charge, but not quite understand what has gone on. Blanche, explain it to us, because we know that this is a sort of David versus Goliath battle against HMRC on behalf of your members. What actually happened?
It only affects contractors. So PAYE people go to work, their national insurance and tax is deducted at source. And then there are contractors whose are not PAYE because they don't work for one employer. And if they only work for a few months, the employer doesn't want the obligation of all the employee benefits of pension, holiday, sickness. So about 25 years ago, HMRC wanted to draw a red line, and they brought out something called IR35, which is incredibly complicated. Contractors have gone to reputable accountants, umbrella companies to make sure they're on the correct side of that and compliant. And they've done that without a problem. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of years ago, HMRC brought in a retrospective tax called the loan charge, and that originally went back 20 years. At the Loan Charge Action Group, we were very upset. We campaigned for it to be looked into, and HMRC investigated themselves and said, no, it's okay.
HMRC investigated themselves, which is ringing alarm bells with me, Blanche. But we are talking about some huge sums. So before I came on air, my producer gave me an email that you had sent on in advance of this. One retired couple who have been told that HMRC is demanding £91,000.
Yes, they're members of ours, and they hadn't heard anything for several years. They'd emailed into the Loan Charge Action Group. The guy said he felt suicidal, so we acted immediately. I called him, I spoke to him, hadn't heard from HMRC for ages, and they want £91,000.
Sorry, how does the taxman, stroke woman, expect people, particularly in retirement, to come up with this money? I mean, presumably they're saying, right, well, sell your home, take it out of your pension. I mean, this is not tax that people were expecting to pay. They thought they had done the right thing by getting the umbrella companies and getting accountants to handle all this, correct?
Correct. And essentially, when contractors are on the correct side of IR35, it's the umbrella companies or the end client who should be responsible for tax and NI, which all of these contractors have paid. And every single year, the accountants and also the umbrella companies have submitted their annual returns, which have been accepted by HMRC.
So HMRC digging its heels in over this, I would assume you have been heavily lobbying government ministers and MPs. What's the kind of reaction from that side of the political fence?
Well, originally, it was very difficult to explain to MPs what this was, that this was retrospective. And it is, because you have to be IR35 compliant. HMRC were accepting them, and we had to lobby MPs and educate them on something that we didn't quite understand. And these days, MPs have become smart. They're listening to their constituents. They're reading all the documents from HMRC, which are very lengthy and complicated. And in fact, there's something called an APPG, which basically means...
An all-party parliamentary group?
Yes.
On the loan charge, I presume, which is putting pressure on. I mean, where does the pressure have to go? Is this something that Jeremy Hunt could solve?
I don't know. MPs are standing up. There's almost 260 on this group, cross members.
Right.
Every single party. There are just under 100 Conservatives and just over 70 Labour parliamentarians. There are debates, there are Treasury questions at Treasury. HMRC is not listening. But I will say one thing, because Jessie Norman, who was one of the previous secretaries to HMRC, to the Treasury, actually stood up and said in Parliament he can't go after the umbrellas because they have done nothing wrong.
Right.
Now,
So go after ordinary people instead.
yeah, so what I've done is I've copied one of the brochures. Probably can't read it, it's a terrible photocopy. But they all said the same thing. They're...
In a nutshell, they're saying, we'll take care of this tax for you. You don't have anything to worry about. Everything will be fine.
Yes. Now, this is AML. Doug Burrowman is related to this and many other companies. He's the husband of Michelle Mone, PPE scandal.
Be careful here, Blanche, because obviously Barrowman and others, AML, aren't here to defend themselves.
Absolutely.
But you're saying this idea of putting the onus on the actual taxpayer as opposed to trying to take to task people who might have given this accountant's advice is wrong. Tell me about the human cost of this, because I did read this morning that 10 people who have had these loan charges applied have taken their own lives.
Yes, HMRC should have carried out a proper impact assessment. They haven't. 10 people have lost their lives. Many people have become insolvent. Many people have sold their homes or raided their pensions simply to come up with the money. The worst thing is that when you sign a document with HMRC, they want you to admit that the guilt is yours, and also if any law changes, you cannot go back to them for any refund. Now, there was a review that reduced the retrospective part from 20 years to 10 years. And just recently, HMRC brought out a section S.684, which they have transferred the liability from the employer, the client, to the employee.
Oh, so us. Right, got it.
And that means, as far as I understand it, they can go backwards or forwards as they wish. So there's no tax certainty, there's no tax fairness, there's no rule of law. Everybody can submit their tax returns, but there's nothing to stop HMRC.
And when you've said to HMRC, look, this is driving some people to consider taking their own lives, we've got retired couples facing 92 grand bills, what's the reaction?
The reaction is whoever is the Secretary to the Treasury at the time stands at the dispatch box and reads out the response from HMRC.
Stock response from HMRC.
Stock response, yes.
So they're not really reacting to the human cost of all this?
If they were, they wouldn't have brought out 684. If they were trying to make it easier for the taxpayer, they wouldn't look up a clause. And that clause wasn't even brought out for this reason. They've adapted it.
I mean, is this the next post office scandal? Because it sounds to me as if the so-called little men and women are suffering here at the hands of, you know, bad accountancy advice and HMRC using a sledgehammer to crack a nut.
It wasn't bad advice. It was legal at the time.
Yeah, legal.
It's because the law is retrospective.
They've changed the
rules.
goalposts have shifted and people have been caught in the middle.
And the little people include teachers,
yes,
airline pilots, hospital staff, every walk of life.
Blanche, thank you very much indeed for that. And I know that people can reach out to your group, can't they? They can email contact@hmrcloancharge.info. We'll put that on the website on GB News to get more information if they've been affected by this. Well, thank you to all my guests today. I'm going to be back at next Sunday, of course, at 9:30. Don't forget, Michael Portillo is up next.